Okay, so I'm a little late with this, but I guess here goes. Last year I was at the Derby. Wasn't that enjoyable. A little crowded, couldn't get my bets in. I'm not sure how much more I'm going to enjoy it this year as I'm throwing a pretty big party here. And but I got most of my bets in today at Retirement Park, and I'll probably be betting offline as I see how the horses react to the Derby crowd, which I actually think is a very important strategy going into the race, because there are 20 horses. They are all 3-year-old colts, and you don't know how they're going to react on Derby Day with such a large crowd and in the presence of so many other competitors. Let's might as well just go through each horse and spend more time on others that I think are more important, like I did last year. We got Daddy Longlegs, the #1 horse. I've always been partial to Scat Daddy's, having a Scat Daddy filly. Really can't knock him that much. He's won about $1.3 million. And the only thing you can really say negative about him is that he hasn't won on dirt yet, and that he's turf bred. But he can go the distance. Aiden O'Brien is a mastermind when it comes to training these horses and bringing them over. If you don't remember, he brought that 3-year-old Ravens pass over that beat out Curlin in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and no one really saw that coming. So, he can do anything. He's got the big owners, big connections. He brought over his jock that rode him both to wins. And, you don't really like to see a horse that you like, particularly go into the one hole. Hopefully he can overcome it. Not putting him on the top spot, to be honest, but if he wins, I'd be happy. Optimizer, I loved him in the Rebel. I like John Court, honest guy, tries every time. I think this horse has got a good shot at getting a piece at a very, very long shot. But I'm not really going to key him. I don't think he's one of the key players in the race, but it's interesting to see this course come in, and I think he's got a good shot because the pace probably sets out for him, because it is probably going to be a nice, hot, contested pace. The 3, Take Charge Indy, I really don't know what to make about him. A lot of the odds come Derby Day are really going to influence me when they really shouldn't. I think a lot of people are going to start to bet Calvin Burrell a little bit because of his Derby success. The horse is beautifully bred. I like the fact that he can win off the pace and setting the pace. It shows that he has determination. He's been in top company pretty much his whole 2- and 3-year-old career. Union Rags, Hansen, he's been with these with the top contenders in here. So, I'm not going to use him really for to win. But he's a horse that could win. He's got the right connections, but I just don't see it happening tomorrow. I think that as much as Burrell wants to take this horse back in a race like this and ride the rail, the horse may just be naturally quick and want to go to the lead. And I don't see this horse really standing the test with Boydmeister and Triniberg. Union Rags is probably the horse I'm going to use the most. It's probably going to be the favorite, the second choice, but it's deservingly so. He likes Churchill, beautiful horse. I think he got a bad ride in the Gulfstream Park, Florida Derby. And I think the race could set up well for him to get the first run at a tiring bunch of leaders, maybe running at Take Charge Indy, Triniberg, and possibly Voidmeister if he can't hold on. Union Rags is probably going to be the one that I have a lot on a lot of my top tickets. He is very probable as a winner. You really want to see a horse on the improve by going into the Derby, and I like to see those are the horses I like to bet. But he's been steadily good, and you can forgive his last race. He didn't really get a chance to really stretch out the way he really likes to. And what I mean by that is just really get into a full stride. He was boxed between horses. And you could say that's a terrible excuse because that's probably what's going to happen to him during the Derby. I'm just hoping for a better scenario. And I think he could get the distance. I think he's conditioned. I think he's ready for the race, just as any of these other horses could be. Dullahan is interesting. A lot of people are going to say that he's really not that good on dirt, and it's hard to not agree with that. But his running tactics really do well for this hot pace that's probably going to happen tomorrow. But and he's half to mind that bird if that makes a case for him at all. I say if he wins the Derby, that dam gets dam of the century, throwing two Kentucky Derby winners. That'd be pretty impressive. So I think he'll be coming late. Depends how he takes the dirt. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen in Mind That Bird, and this horse happens to just be, a half brother to Mind That Bird. So, I mean, probably going to get a piece because I really think there's going to be a hot pace. So I'm really looking for a horse to come from behind. So this 5-horse here could probably be pretty good to put in the exotics. Boydmeister is interesting. I mean, he's got Bob Baffert. He's won the Derby before. Mike Smith has won the Derby before with Giacomo. The horse is probably going to go off the favorite of the second choice. He's just faster than all these horses on paper and visually. If you don't even know horse racing and you saw his Arkansas Derby win, it was very impressive. I have questions that he didn't race at 2. And there hasn't been a horse since Apollo, over 100 years ago that won the Derby without racing at 2. So, I mean, it's a pretty crazy statistic. That is not favored Boydmeister. You could say that they're breaking a lot of trends over the past 10 years, and this is the last one that needs to be broken. But, it hasn't been broken for, over 100 years for a reason. And I see, Boydmeister and Trinidberg definitely going out for the lead, where, the Derby last year seemed that there was a lot of speed, but that speed was pretty rateable. I think there's a lot of horses in here that there's speed and they really aren't rateable, like Trinidberg and Boydmeister and a couple others that I'll get back to later. But, I see one of two things, one of a couple of things happening. Boydmeister goes out with Trinidberg fades, and Boydmeister just takes off after that and wins the Derby. I say he gets boxed between horses, takes dirt in his face, and doesn't even show up, doesn't even place. Those are the two things that I really think are going to happen if Boydmeister wins the Derby. Rousing Sherman, it's interesting to see a California trainer take on a Kentucky. It's not that interesting, but it's still pretty cool for the race. You like to see Lascano get him out here, and the horse is live. He's going to be coming at the end. I don't know too much about the horse because I don't follow California racing that much, but he came over to Fairgrounds and ran a decent race behind Mark Valesky, who was taken out of the race not too long ago, a couple days ago. I mean, every horse has a shot. They're in here for a reason, and just being in this race is enough to be happy about. I could see him getting a piece, but I don't really see him as a win candidate. Creative Cause, I've heard from a couple people that this horse actually may not even run tomorrow. I'd be interested to see how much gossip actually is true. Beautiful horse, fires every time, really can't knock him. I mean, I really didn't put him in much of my tickets, but it's because I just have a prejudice against California racing. I just never really thought it was that great. But he did beat Boydmeister, so if Larry's gonna get mad at me for saying that, but I just don't follow it that much, and that's what it comes down to. But I mean, I think if the horse is in the race and he looks good before the race, you'd be foolish not to put him in your ticket. I mean, he's running at 1 mile and an eighth. He's one of the few horses in this race that has got over 100 buyer. Rosario is a top class jock, and the horse just always fires. So I mean, I think that's a horse that you probably need to use. That's probably a horse that I'm going to use tomorrow when I'm betting online, putting him behind Unirags and probably a couple other horses. But if Creative Cause runs, he could get a piece. Here we go. We're on the 9, Trinidberg. I'm not going to spend too much time on this horse. I mean, if he wins, great. But I think to me it'd be a bigger shock than Mind That Bird winning. The horse is built for speed. He looks like he's a speed horse. His pedigree is speed. He runs like a speed horse. He's never ran past 7 furlongs. To me, I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but I think this horse has no business being in the race, and it's actually a little dangerous because he's going to make the lead, and he's going to be coming back probably 8 or 9 furlongs and just be wobbling, and horses are going to try to pass him, and it could get a little dangerous. I just don't see this horse lasting past what could be an exciting opening half mile. Daddy Knows Best, again, a Scott Daddy. I've liked this horse ever since it broke his maiden, and I liked him at Churchill a couple times. He just always fires, very determined horse. I love how he won the Sunland Derby. This is a horse that, again, I'm using on top as a long shot, but he's going to be a long shot, but I don't think he's going to be as long as other people think, because there's been a lot of buzz about this horse training up into the Derby, and he's done very well for himself, winning the last 2 races. you'd argue that he hadn't run against top company, or maybe that he's best on grass. But, he's improving. He's making his third start off a layoff. He's got a great trainer in Stephen Esmusen. He picks up Garrett Gomez because Julian LaPeroux takes off him to go ride the favorite Unirags. You can't blame him. I think Garrett Gomez is a plus to this horse. I see him coming at the end and possibly picking up the pieces if Garrett Gomez can get him in good position to make a good run at the leaders. I don't see him being actively in the pace at all, really, but I think that'd be a good position to be in this year's Derby. It is quite off the pace. You got to give yourself position. And then you come to Alpha, a horse that I've always liked. I was with my buddy Ramiro the day the horse broke its maiden. I bet him. At 6-1, it was a beautiful bet. I thought he ran professionally in his first start ever, weaving in between horses to win the race by 6 lengths. I remember telling my buddy Ramiro shortly after the race, this horse is going to be in the Derby. I don't know what his odds are going to be. This horse is going to be in the Derby this year. And that was over in September, and I said, first of all, how can you name a horse Alpha and not have it be a good horse by Bernardini, by Darley? You switch it over to Godolphin Stables. The horse is a little horse. You can argue that. There's going to be a lot to say about this horse and his Win Memorial, and was the trip that bad? Was Jamala just playing with him at the end? And did the cut that he got in the Win Memorial that took him out of training for a couple days thereafter hinder his chances of winning the Derby? There's a lot to say about Alpha. I think because of his small stature, he'll be able to get good position and maybe weave a little bit in and out of that traffic, kind of like how Jackson Ben does, being in the older races. So, Alpha is a horse, fires every time. I've always liked from his very first start. So, again, I put him on top, and I might as well just say, and I'm taking a shot there, really believe I am. I would have liked to see maybe Alan Garcia take them out for Kieran, not Rajiv, but Rajiv is so talented. I don't understand why Alan didn't get it, because he normally rides for them. But, Rajiv goes back to, overseas, and he rode for them before. So, it could be a good fit for this horse. And he always tries, so I'm really looking forward to see this horse run. I'm going to use, really, now that we've gotten past him, on top, Unirags, Daddy Knows Best, and Alpha. Those are really my top horses for the top spot. Not to say before the race I may not put another horse in the top spot as a saver, because they may look great before the race. But these are the horses going into the Derby day that I really feel confident that have a chance of winning. And not to say that they're the only ones, but those are the ones that I'm going to put on top. Perspective won the Tampa Bay Derby. Nice horse, big owners, Canadian connections, I guess you could say. The horse is moving in the right direction. I think that he could. I think that he could be a little bit outclassed here. He didn't run well in the bluegrass. You could argue that it was on synthetic, but I don't think he gets. I don't think he's a win candidate. So I'm not going to talk about him that much more. Went the day well. He got the same connections as last year's Derby here. Team Valor, Barry Irwin, and Graham Motion. This horse has really done nothing wrong. Kind of similar to Animal Kingdom's preps for the Derby last year. So horse you definitely got to put in. They're going to give him morning line 20-1. I don't know how much that's going to change on people's feelings about the same connections about last year's Derby. But the horse is progressing. Really hasn't done much wrong. And the horse I think you definitely need to use in the exotics. Maybe not a win candidate, but I said the same thing about Animal Kingdom last year. But here's a nice horse with the nice connections, with every right to do well in the race. Hanson, Hanson, you got your 2-year-old champion here. You either love Hanson or you don't. I'm looking at his form right now. 2 seconds and 4 firsts out of 6 starts. All, grade 1, grade 3 races against the best of his age. Hard to knock him. I always thought he was a lightly built horse, and I see him not on the improve here. And, I'm not saying I'm throwing him out, but I just don't think he's a win candidate in this race, where a lot of people probably do, and for good reason. I see all his form is on the front end of the race, and I just don't see him getting anything close to a favorable position here. unless he wants to sit off the pace. There's no way he's making the lead here. This is not the BC Juvenile. These are 3-year-old colts, and they're all eager to run. So I just don't see him making the lead. And if he gets some dirt in his face, I just don't know if he's going to like it. People are going to say that he could rate like he did in the Gotham, but I just don't think he'd beat anybody there that is that incredible to give him a reason to win this race. Gemologist, the 15 horse, Windstar Farms. They won the race a couple years ago with Super Saver, totally capable connections. You got Todd Pletcher, colt by Tiz Now. He beat Alpha in the Wood Memorial, and watching the race back and forth, it seems like as if he was toying with him at the end. I don't know how much of that is true, but I mean it really looks like that. I don't know. The horse has never done anything wrong. Period. 5 for 5. So it's really hard to argue with that. But making his third start of the form, improving. I definitely see this horse, if he can get a favorable trip, if he can sit 4 or 5 back, 6, 7, 8 back, to get a piece of this. I mean, he's strong, he's training great. I think this is a horse that is definitely going to hit the exotics. Again, I don't really think he's a win candidate. I don't know if he has the seasoning like some of these other horses have. But I'd like to see his game win against Alpha to turn him back. I don't know how much that race took out of him, but he's definitely on the improve, and definitely a horse that you need to use and see how he looks before the race. Union Rags always sweat, so I expect to see that. But these couple of these other horses could be losing their mind come time for post time, and Gemologist could be sitting cool and really just look like a top contender. And that's something to watch before the race tomorrow, because I mean, everything is looking in his direction that he's about to move forward. El Padrino is pretty much the exact opposite, really. Same connections, and he's just on his way down. People have really thrown him out after his dull performance in the Florida Derby, when just a day before the race, he was one of the top contenders for the Derby. Even in my head, I really thought that he was on the improving, maybe if he just drew a line through his last race, I mean, he's got an even better shot than Gemologist does. So here's a horse that I'm probably going to use more than Gemologist because of the price I'm going to get, because he's not undefeated, which really is meaningless to me going into a race like this with 20 horses. With being undefeated doesn't count. You need racing luck, you need seasoning, you need experience. So El Padrino could have got that in the Florida Derby, and he could be standing on a really good race to do real well. I like how he picks up Bejarano, a top jock, and I love the Pletcher and Bejarano combination. And let's go stables. These kids really know how to get it going. So let's see what happens with that horse. I think he's going to get a piece at a price. I think anything past 21 is a good price to put him in your exotics. We're almost done. We got done talking out of a Dixieland band mare. Talk about the Illinois Derby. Who really cares about it? Horse can come off the pace. I mean, other than that, I don't really see him making a good case for this horse. His buyers really don't stack up, even though that I'm not a big buyer guy. But I mean, they're just he's so much slower than the other horses in the race, and he's in the race because of his graded earnings. Taking a shot, I just don't really see him as making an impact in the race. If he does, maybe late, but nothing where you're going to get paid for it. So, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm going to throw him out, but I mean, he's one that I would probably throw out. And I hate to say I'm going to throw something out, but he's just not as fast as the other horses in here to hit the super. Sabercat's an interesting horse against. You got Steve Asmussen here. You got Nakatani. They've been on fire lately. I mean, you can look over to the right. They've teamed up at Churchill 13 times and won 38%. You can't argue with that. Over the past year, really, 30%. Can't argue with that. Here's a horse that I think is going to be charging late. I know my buddy Ryan from GradedStakes.com always loved this horse. And you can see him getting a piece. Nakatani, he's an aggressive rider. And this is a horse that I use as a long shot, 30-1. There's such value in this race to catch a price, especially the trifectas and supers here. I'll have another I think is going to get bet, the 19 horse. I think he's going to get bet. Why not? He won the Santa Anita Derby. Before that, he won the R.B. Lewis, the Richard B. Lewis. So, I mean, again, I'm not a big fan of California racing, but got to use this horse. I think you could get lost in the pace, catch some dirt, and not really like it. But, you can't bet all the horses. And here's one that I'm just not going to use as one of the top spots where a lot of people probably would, and for good reason. I'm partial to the other horses that I've mentioned, and this is one that I got to leave out. You got Redham Racing, powerful connections. I just can't bet them all. Liaison, showed some promise as a 2-year-old. Top connections. I mean, 50-1 morning line for Baffert and Martin Garcia. I'd love to see this every weekend if I could. It just never happens. So, I mean, take it as in me. I mean, bet the horse, put him in there. He hasn't showed that brilliant, not brilliance. He hasn't showed the talent he showed as a 2-year-old. So, I mean, he's not really progressing as a winner. But, can't really knock Bob Baffert and Martin Garcia. I mean, they just do everything right. He's putting blinkers on. He's trying to change something up. He needs to. He knows he needs to. He's going to try to change something up. And maybe we'll do something for him. So there's the Derby field this year for 2012. I hope I gave you a little bit of light on it. Maybe I didn't. We got him on Twitter, Dom Savitas on Twitter. I'll be commenting on the races throughout the day, even though there'll be a big party over here. But, I mean, I actually wanted to go through a couple more races through the undercard because, I mean, this Derby's really tough. It's got value, but it's going to be really hard to pick. I mean, let me just look through the things because I know off the top of my head some horses that I really like to see win tomorrow on the undercard. In the first race, I'm partial to Point Taken. A friend of mine owns the horse, Mike Meeks. Horse is showing really good talent. He only bought the horse for $9,000. What a great buy. The horse is super talented out of Point Given. But by Point Given. So I'll play a little bit. That's in the first race tomorrow, Point Taken. He drew the rail. See what happens. I'll be rooting for Mike. Third race, I've always liked Windsurfer. Good connections, Todd Pletcher. I'm just looking at this here, see if I can find anything in the race. Just going over him. Windsurfer I've always liked, so I think he's live. Let's go into, let's see. I've always liked Amazambi. I think he always tries. They got Gantry picked here, but I think Amazambi's top class horse. He's doing real well right now, and I think he's got it in there. Eighth race, nice, beautiful turf race. This is going to be a tough race, a race I'm really going to enjoy. Marketing Mix was so impressive at Keeneland winning on the turf. Aruna has lost a step or two, and I've been a fan of Aruna for a while. She's in my virtual stable, so I like to see when she runs. But, if she doesn't get a hot pace, she just doesn't seem to fire that well. And Daisy Divine, she won all her starts on turf, so you can't really knock her. But I just think Marketing Mix is really sitting on a big race, and I mean, hopefully I get a good price. I'm hoping 4-1, maybe more, to bet the race. But Marketing Mix over Aruna and Tappett's Fly, and I'm sure Daisy Divine. Hungry Island is a horse that I've always liked. Races up in New York. Is a really nice runner, and I think if I can get a good price, that'd be a nice horse to have in the exotics. The next race, the 9th race, I'm just going to fool around with this race a little bit. There was a horse that I had heard about a lot last year and actually met the owner. The horse's name is Fantasy of Flight. It's a nice filly, top-class filly. And I expect a lot from her, and I expect her to outrun her odds at 30-1. And when I say that, I mean that she'll probably do better than 5th. I'll play a little bit on her because at 30-1 or more, I think she's got a lot of value, especially in a day like today. He's not there to embarrass himself. He believes the horse has a chance, and so do I. A lot of these horses, I mean, Musical Romance won the Breeders' Cup, but she was a big long shot. So I mean, she's good, but she didn't get the backing in the Breeders' Cup. So I think it's a soft group right here, if I could say that. So I think of all the races you could catch a long shot, maybe it'd be this one. And there is a lot of there's 4 favorites really: 2-1, 5-2, 5-2, and 4-1. So I think you could catch a little something fun in this race if you want to look at it a little closer. We got the 10th race. It's a real nice turf race. You got Turallure, Doubles Partner, all these horses coming back in this race. Really going to be a competitive race. Little Mike with Joe Bravo's going to be in the race. He was supposed to be in there last year, but got scratched the morning up. So he could be trying to take another shot at it, and maybe he has a better shot this year. And it'd be interesting to see if he can come back after being scratched last year and do well in the race. Let me see who I used in here. I really used the 2 and the 6, Turallure and Doubles Partner. I've always liked these horses. They ran a lot last year. I think they always fire. I put them over each other in Data Link and Get Stormy. I don't know what to make of Turbo Compressor. I like to see JR take the ride of Turbo Compressor over Brilliant Speed, but that wasn't the case. So I don't really know what to make of it. This is a race that I'll be watching to see how these horses are looking tomorrow. 11th race, the Derby, we already talked about that. And in the last race, I'm going to skip the 12th race. Doesn't mean that much to me. I'll watch it as a fan, but it really doesn't mean that much to me. The 13th race, I actually like the 5 over the 1-8. The 5 is a really talented horse. And I think that, wait, I can't be right. Let me take a look. It says I like the 5 here in the 13th race, and I think I bet him. Let me just make sure I didn't make a mistake. What I wanted to bet was Parabellum, the 4. I really think I made a mistake right now, and that'd be dreadful for me. No. In the race here, it does say Parabellum is the 5. So this is a Street Sense colt that I've liked. He came second to Sockham Spirit, a horse that I've bet a couple times. 2-time winner out of 3 races. A very talented colt by Mr. Greeley that this horse almost beat. I really think this is a talented colt. Could get a really nice price, 4-1 or higher. I'd like to see him on the turf, but he's on the dirt. I like to see him Moss. He's really a turf trainer. He's got him running on the dirt, so he's a good horse. And you put him in there with the 8 and the 1. You got to put him in there with La Prue and the 8 there. You got the Dixie Union. But the 1 here, Moon Traveler, bred by John Mulholland, beautifully bred horse here, owned by John Oxley. I think this is another horse that could really fire in the race. I think this is a good betting race towards the end of the day. And I hope you guys all have a good Derby, and best of luck to you all, and greetings from Texas.